Good Monday morning, everybody. It is the 12th of January, 2025. And I put the handles together while I was off air, or off camera, with a little bit of glue and some screws holding that rod in there. And I did that just so we could get this put together, because quite honestly, for you folks, that'd be about like watching nose hair grow. So on we're going to get today with finishing up the final assembly of this two-wheel hoe from Haas Tools, and we're going to also add the tape layer attachment to it. So we're going to show you all that starting right now. Now the instructions say there are several tools you need to put this wheel hoe together. One of them is a 7/16 wrench, whether it be a combination, box end, open end, whatever. You need one of those. You need a pair of 1/2-inch wrenches, or a 1/2-inch wrench, an adjustable wrench, or 2 adjustable wrenches, whichever you might have your hands on. Then finally, you also need a 9/16 wrench, or a wrench that does it all. Yeah, it's a real nut tightener. Woohoo! Now the 7/16 nut is used, or wrench is used here on the nuts that hold the handlebars on. They are a castellated nut. There's a square hole that the head of the bolt sits into. Then you have a flat washer and a lock washer, followed up by a nut on the outside, holding all that together. Then the 9/16 nut is that big thing with that fancy flange on it. That takes that 9/16 wrench and that holds these on. And also the bolts for the attachments that bolt onto the bottom of this. The 1/2-inch that you need tightens the lug nuts. These are a nylon ended nut. I think they call them a Nylox nut. Yeah. Anyway, you need a pair of those, or a 1/2-inch and one of these, or 2 of these, one on each side to tighten up the axle shaft onto the frame. And before I forget, the only difference between this two-wheel hoe and a single-wheel hoe is you flip these 2 bars around that go out to the axle shaft to where they don't bend out, they bend in. And then you pull up your wheel in there, put the axle in there, it's just a bolt, and tighten it up, and there you go. You got a single wheel hoe. That'd be real handy if you have some real narrow cultivating to do between really narrow rows of plants, if you can't straddle them with this, if they're low enough. Now, I did find out what this bar is for. It still have those spikes wrapped to it. This bar fits across like so. So if you need to offset either a cultivating tool, like one of those duck-billed cultivator teeth, or a plow share, you can do that. First thing we're going to do today, though, is I'm going to show you these plowshares. I don't know if you can see it or not, but they're marked right and left. But that depends on what you're doing with them. Yeah, so what we're going to do is stuff the one on here. Now, the outer bolt on the ear is press fit in, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's got like little teeth in there, little gear teeth. It's pressed in there so it doesn't come out. So if you want to, let's see, that needs to go this way. So if you want to cultivate with it, or whatever you're wanting to do, let's see, we want to plow with it. And we got to take this off. Just going to show you here real quick what it does and doesn't do. Let's see, for plowing, it goes this way. Well, let's do it like you're going to hill something. Yeah, we're going to hill something here. Let's see. We'll go this. No, gotta go this way. Yeah, you got to kind of figure out where your bolt holes are to get this thing in there. It goes like that. And then this one, because it has the square head underneath the round head, goes like that because it'll fit in that slot. Now my ground's kind of frozen, so I won't show you how well it works. But yeah, that's what you got. I forgot my left and rights were backwards because it was upside down, but that's what it looks like mounted on there if you're going to do like a furrow or whatever, although it would be turned to the inside. So maybe I better take that off and put it around the right way. Ah, heck, if I do that, that'll take all the fun out of you folks learning how to do it yourself. So, yeah, I'm going to put on the cultivator duckbill little cultivator deals and show you what those look like instead. And then we'll get on to mounting the tape layer attachment. I was walking out to the truck the other day after I'd been shopping at the local store, and I heard a wife strongly complaining to her husband about how rude the cashier was to her, and mean and just despiteful. Husband kind of nodded, and she said, well, are you going to go in and talk to the manager and say something? He said, no. He said, because you probably went through the self-checkout again, didn't you? Well, this is a plug for my buddy Alvis and his YouTube channel of Old Red Tractors. I'm not getting paid by him to endorse him or anything. I'm going to tell you what I found. I had a couple of comments on the high price of stuff at Tractor Supply Company. I'm not the only one that's had that issue. He told me he went in for a chicken font, which is a watering device for some chickens. It's like $25 last year. This year it was 50 something. At the same thing at the same store, gone up double. So yeah, and I had another fellow comment telling me that it was probably some high test hooks. I'm sorry, for 1/4 inch chain, high test hooks are never going to fail, and I wouldn't spend the money on them. Now, whether or not this Tractor Supply store that I went to had accidentally hung the $3.99 hooks on a $17.99 peg, could very well have been. I didn't check the peg. The pegs didn't have a price tag on them. As such, the hooks themselves did. So I'm just going off the price tag that was on the hooks. But yeah, they weren't, they were just the standard, normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill hook for that 1/4 inch chain. Anyway, back on to the Haas wheel hoe here. Okay, see, having a hard time holding this. See these two bolts right there? That's for that plowshare. Some people call them shovels, but they're actually a plow. And that is mounted now the right way around to actually do some plowing of dirt. And if you put the other one in there, the one for the left, the same way around as this one, with the bolt being in the slot up there like that one, then you can actually make a corrugate or a furrow to put potatoes in to start your potatoes. Okay, the cultivator teeth, all of them from Haas have a little notch in them. I don't know if you can see that right there, or bump on the tool, and it fits right here in that slot. So if you were going to mount 3, that would fit inside of that slot. Now if you want to do 4, you can use the spacer, bolt it in there, and then you have anywhere out here you want to go to adjust for an outrigger, so to speak, or an outside cultivator, duckfoot cultivator. But I'm just going to mount one inside there right quick for you. And again, it has the square hole up here for the underside of the carriage bolt. Goes down through there. Now, turn it around. The those little bumps or tabs that I was showing you fit down in that groove to keep this thing from working backwards and coming off. Yeah, I can get that nut started without dropping it. Maybe, maybe not. You gotta forgive me, my hands are fairly well crippled up this morning with arthritis. This cold weather is not doing me any favors. There we go. Okay. And you don't need a washer on that with those big nuts with the underside on them here like that. And if you lose these, you can always buy just regular nuts with washers to go on there. And then it's the same thing with these here. The principle, they've got a depressed center out here. Put the bolt in, drop it in. You can adjust it sideways wherever you want it. Put it clear out here. You can put it behind the wheel. It's what I like to do, especially with my farming equipment. When I was farming, I'd like to have one of those chisel rippers, whatever you want to call them, or one of these duck bills, or something behind the wheels of the farm tractor, because the wheels are going to compact around a little bit, and this thing comes along right behind it, digs it up, breaks it up, and keeps the soil loose. But that's how easy it is to install those. You'll notice these slots have this big round hole in them. This one is pretty much mirror image of this one back here, except it doesn't have the round opening. It's just a slot that goes back because it's at the rear of the tool. But yeah, you loosen them up enough. Hang on here. I gotta loosen it up a wee bit more. You loosen it up enough, and like that one will slide right out because it's notched. And if you wanted to move this up here to the front, you drop that big nut right in the hole, slide her forward to that tab, lines up with the depressed area so it holds it, tighten up the nut, and you're good to go. That's how it works on all of these. Even on the Planet Junior stuff, you can just drop it in and slide it around wherever you want it. And that's how you get those in, so you don't have to take the nut and bolt out to lose them. Yeah. You know, I was listening to one of those tree hugger environmentalist types the other day, and they were talking about how those of us that think the world is round is wrong in everything we do. And they explained that the world is 71% water, and that none of it's carbonated water. So they got me to thinking, does that mean that they're right and the world is actually flat? Okay, this is where the spacer bar comes in handy, and it goes underneath there in the back like I told you. Yeah, you got to have that to mount the plows, which are on the wrong side. This is actually the left plow, the right one's over yonder. They are set in a configuration to toss dirt into the middle. But before you mount those, you have to drop, the shadow's getting in the way, that carriage bolt into the slot here and into the bracket right there on the plow, because that other bolt is already stuck into the share, or the plow attaching bracket, and it comes up on the inside right there. Yeah, and then that bar kind of self-centers itself when you get the nuts all in place there. But you got to do that to get those plows in there. See if we can see it. To, maybe I can't. To make the furrow or the closer on the thing, yeah. Anyway, I can't get it in there to show it to you because I've got that roller and the feed mounted in there right at the minute. Now, if you go like I do, not by the instructions, you have to go back and refer to the instructions on how to install those plows. It is recommended that you install the plows in the closing position, the furrow closing position, before you mount the rest of the pipe or drip tape layer attachment. Yeah. I'm going to have my shadow on this. I'm sorry about that. Next thing to install is this wheel that actually lays the tape on the ground and the mud scraper. Now that goes into that front hole here in the assembly, kind of like that. Oh, yeah, first thing you got to do though is take that nut off. The next thing you do is you install this deal that the tape comes down here underneath and goes out the back. This has the mud scraper on it. That goes back towards the operator, which would be you or whoever you can call into running the thing. And that goes up here in that front slot there, something like that. And then the roller with the yellow wheel goes on top of that, like so. And then you put one of those big fancy nuts on there to hold that all together. Now if you get ambitious and you want to take this thing apart to use it as a just a cultivator, by all means go right ahead. I don't plan on taking this thing apart unless I find my garden is such that it doesn't warrant the use of drip tape. In that case, I'll pull all this apart and store it until the time I need it. But I'm thinking we're going to need it this year. I'm hoping I am anyway. So we'll tighten that up. And that'd be faster if you had a 9/16 socket on the end of a wrench. But yeah, there you go. All right, there is the actual layer of feed roller attachments in place. The tape comes down here, like I said, drops down through that square tubing that's right underneath it. It's part of its mounting frame. You can see it right through here. Comes out down here and goes underneath the little press wheel down here and comes out the back side of it. Now to install the bracket and the tensioner for the reel 15 mil drip tape. Yeah, we'll get that put on and we'll put on a roll of that drip tape and route it through everything and show you how it looks all completed. Now to mount the bracket for the roll of drip tape, you drop one bolt into the hole and kind of slide it forwards through the slot if you can and over. Drop the other head of the bolt in the other hole. You gotta kind of wiggle the thing forwards. Sometimes it's just easier just to take the bolts clean out, but then you center the thing as best as you can and tighten down the nuts that hold this bracket up. Yeah. And the only problem that really makes it kind of difficult to get this mounted in there by putting these on first is that square shoulder under the head of the carriage bolt. So when you're done, you should end up with something that looks kind of like that. In this thing, you need to make sure it is straight with the rest of the machine so that the tape will lay correctly. There you go. Yeah, sorry for the wiggly, but that's the way it goes. All right, now this is the bar that goes through the tape spool. I'm going to unscrew this thing right quick just to show you something. That little nub right there, that's what rests in the cradle of the arm that comes up to hold this whole thing up. You do not have to take this wing nut off to get to that. I just back it off so that it's loose. One side, this is fixed, and that's the side that you do not put into the spool. It is this side, goes into the spool. After you get that off, you take that off, this goes in the spool, and then this slides back on as a spacer along with the nut, and that's what holds your spool 15 mil drip tape onto the machine. The drip tape is supposed to feed off of the front of the spool up towards the wheels. So you want this fresh end, the cut end, pointing down at the front of the machine. Then you take the shaft with the fixed end on it, slide it in like so. That enlarged end does not go through the hole in the middle of the tape roll. Flip it over, and well, yes, it does actually. No, it doesn't. How does that attach on there then? Maybe I gotta go this way. One hole's bigger than the other. Nope. Okay, well, we'll be right back when I figure that out. Alrighty, I know why this does not work, why this is too short. It's because they sent me the extra big roll of drip tape. It's supposed to be about half that size. Yeah, the tape spool is only supposed to be about that wide. So I'm going to have to return this bigger roll and exchange it for two of the smaller rolls that actually fit between those two uprights. Because like I said, these go in here something like that. And that's as wide as that is, that's as long as it is, so these big spools won't fit in there. It's either send these bigger spools back or find somebody like in an electrical department at some store that has an empty wire spool that is the right width for that. Maybe have to bore out the hole in the middle for that shaft to go into it, or maybe a spool of rope or something, and unwind some of this drip tape, wind it up on that other spool, and put that other spool on the thing. It sounds like more work than it's worth. It'd be easier just to send these big spools back to Haas. My fault, ordered the wrong thing. Yeah, so anyway, that is going to end up today's video on how to put together that drip tape machine on a 2-wheel Haas wheel hoe. Yeah, I'm going to have to order a second wheel hoe, probably a single wheel. I don't know that I'll order another double wheel. A single might just do it. I'll have to do a little digging and look at that, with another pair of those plowshares. And the reason why is I'm going to put the plowshares where they point in this way and actually dig the furrow, open the furrow as it were, to have the tape lay down into it, so this machine can cover it back up and bury it in the ground. Yeah, so I may have to invest in either a Planet Junior version or another one of these Haas ones. So yeah, we'll see what it does. Before I forget, there was another oops. By the way, I used the Gorilla Glue to glue the cross shaft into the handles. Yeah, that isn't too bad, but I think I used a little too much glue on that one and it ran down here. So before I take some sandpaper to it, I got to get rid of that oops right there and knock it off there with a straight edge razor or something. So yeah, that was another oops for Dave. Before I go though today, I want to ask you if you heard in the news about the guy that was in the freak peekaboo accident. Yeah, he's not doing so good. No, he's in the ICU. Anyway, Farmer Dave here, wrapping it up for today. Wishing you all well. And we'll see you next time on Dave's Old Iron. Yeah, so take care. Thank you for subscribing, and thumbs up and smile at the world. That'd just drive all the crazy, crabby people nuts if you do that. Anyway, talk to you later. Bye-bye for now.